Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Happy Coffee and Quarantine episode 16, I think. So crazy. Week 3 of doing this, which is so amazing. So if you're here, go ahead, give me a comment. Let me know that you're here. As always, be super interactive. Talk to me, especially today, because today is Q&A day. And so I've got questions. We did this last week. It was so much fun, where I pulled question cards and then I answered questions from all of you guys as you were on there. So join me and ask me questions. I know one person yesterday, Candy, asked me what my human design was, and I honestly don't even understand that yet. I have to do so much more studying, but we're gonna give it a few minutes, let some people come on and join us, and because everyone's funneling over here now from Facebook. So we'll wait for a few people to jump on with us, and then we're gonna just kind of chat today and discuss things that are happening. If you guys have any questions you want me to answer, please write them in the chat box. If you're here, say hello in the chat box. Let me know. It's always way more fun when there's engagement and interaction, because then I'm not just talking to a camera and I'm actually talking to people, which is really fun, especially right now when we are in this weird dynamic that we're in. So say hello, join me, let me know you're here. I'm going to see what's happening over on Facebook. Oh, I should put this on silent too. Everything's a learning curve. Let's see. We'll draw a card. I've got 2 decks today. I've got these empowerment questions. Where did I put my other deck? So I've got these empowerment questions. These are great for coaching, great for self-reflection and journaling as well, as we found out last week as I was drawing from these. And then I also have these, they're called Walking Your Path, and these were toe reading cards that I got from SWIHA, the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, and these were used in the coaching program not long ago either. So these are the Walk Your Path, and these were used in toe reading as well as in life coaching, which is cool. So toe reading is a modality where a qualified and trained toe reader can actually look at your feet, and each toe represents a different element and different qualities. And by looking at the shape of your toes, especially over time, if you go to see toe readers consistently, your feet actually change. And it's really, really cool, because you can actually see how you've grown. You can see where you might be stuck. You can see maybe things that you want or need to be working on. So toe reading is a very cool little modality that SWIHA has and trains on. So we're going to be using these 2 decks today just to kind of see what's going on, to just enjoy a little discussion that's really free flow, and I don't really have anything planned. These questions are what we have planned. But before we get started in that, let's light some Palo Santo and just close our eyes and ground for a second, just coming into the body, coming into the moment, allowing yourself to just really notice what's happening for you today and in the moment, taking a moment to check in with yourself. It's really important to do that. It's just noticing your breath, noticing any sensations that come up. Some Palo for you as well. Palo Santo is a very cleansing smoke. So when we burn the sacred Palo Santo, the smoke is very cleansing and it's very uplifting. It's an uplifting energy. So just checking in with yourself and noticing. Hi, Miss Jenny. Welcome. Welcome. So glad you're here, Jenny. We're doing Q&A today. So if you have any questions that you would like me to answer, please let me know. All right, now that we've got all this beautiful Palo Santo, I feel more grounded already. That happens so quickly. Beautiful. We'll keep that going. So let's start with the Walking Your Path deck. See what comes up here. Let's see. All right. What holds you back from creating more in the world? Oh, that's a good question. I love these cards, are fantastic. What holds you back from creating more in the world? So I think this is an important question that we should all ask ourselves. We should all ask ourselves pretty often. Maybe it's, in the world can be kind of big, can be a little bit overwhelming, just like, what are you creating in the world? But another way you can reframe it is just what are you creating for yourself? What's holding you back from just creating and expressing yourself in any way? It doesn't necessarily have to be for or in the world, but I think it's important for us to reflect on our behaviors and our mindsets and the thoughts that we allow and continue to let replay in our mind over and over again. And I think it's important that we recognize these things, because it's only from a place of recognition that we can move into acceptance and understand our responsibility in it. And this goes across all different types of things. But so the first step is really recognizing that you're not showing up fully, or you're not, allowing yourself to participate fully in whatever is going on. And then from there, you can start to see, okay, what is holding me back? Why am I not doing the things I say I want to be doing? What am I not applying myself to? And from that place of reflection, we can lean into acceptance. We can lean into the decision to do things differently, to be differently, to act differently. And so for me, what holds me back from creating more in the world? Well, to be honest, it used to be time. It used to be time. It was always time. Like the first things that would be, well, that was my excuse. I would say it was time, but I guess really it would have been my priorities. But for a lot of people, the two biggest reasons we say we can't do things or do the things we want to do is because we don't have time. And that is part of it, because, we work, we go to school, we have jobs, we have families and kids and all these things that we have to do. So it does seem like time is something we don't have a lot of. But I would say more than just time, it's your priorities. It's what is your values? And are you in alignment with your values? So I would say what holds me back from being in alignment, or what holds me back from creating more in the world, is being out of alignment with my values and being out of alignment with who I say I want to be. And so the recognition of our values is going to be really, really important in this. So being out of alignment is what holds me back. So I know, like, for this year, like, one of my big values is creativity in music, because that's something my whole life that I've known, like, in my heart, in my body, since I was a little girl. It's always like dance, art, music, like all these things have always been inside of me, but I never had the opportunity to really express them. Those weren't very much considered ways that you could live a life in the household I grew up in. It was, we were very linear in the way that we grew up, which is fine. Like, we did art and things like that, but it definitely wasn't like, yeah, you could do that for a living and make a happy life out of that. And so as I got older, that excuse doesn't exist anymore. I can't blame it on my parents. I have to take responsibility that I'm in charge of my time now. I get to decide what it is that I do on the day in and the day out. And so am I watching Netflix and chilling, or am I reading? Am I writing? Am I playing guitar? Am I doing these creative things that I say I want to be doing and getting better at them? And so it's really an awareness and a reflection of my own values and my own priorities, and recognizing where things are, and allowing them to really be the most important part of my life, and allowing my values to be the guiding principles and forces of how I take action in the world. And I think that's really important for all of us to realign with our values. And like, so for me, my values are education, community, and creativity. Those are like my top three values. And so many things fall under those umbrellas. Like for me, education, I'm a teacher, but I'm also in a graduate program. For family, it's my family, my sisters, it's my partner, but that's also my friends and my close friends and the women in my community. And then community being a value, a lot of the work that I do is about bringing women together to support them in feeling that they have a bigger network of women around them. And I don't even really like, it's like more of a mandala. I look at it more as a web of like the spider of creation, and this web that we weave together, and that we catch each other and we can rely on each other because we love each other, and this community of women that we're a part of, we know we'll be there for one another. So I think that aligning with your values is going to be what's really, or for me, what holds me back from creating more is being out of alignment with my values. So I know that if I'm not in alignment with my values, I'm usually doing something that doesn't feel really good in my body, in my heart, in my mind, and I can quickly come back to those. I can quickly come back to my values because I've done the work of really understanding them and digging my roots down deep into my values to ensure that I live that life of authenticity and I live that life of alignment. Because life feels good when you're in alignment with what you want to be doing. And you can look, I'm sure every person has experienced that. It's like you're laying on the couch watching a movie, or Netflix and binging, or Netflix and chilling, or whatever. And you know you want to be doing something else. Like, you know, you're like, oh, I should be reading, or I want to be doing something else. I want to be doing art, or I want to be, writing or do. But then we still sit on that couch and watch TV, and then we feel guilt, or we feel shame, or we feel like we're not showing up for ourselves as best we could. And when that happens, that's the opportunity in that moment to do something differently so that we can create more in the world, so we can create more for ourselves, so we can create more for the people who surround us and the people who we're lucky enough to engage with. So I really like this question. I invite you to maybe reflect and journal on it as well. What holds you back from creating more in the world? Okay, so there was a question that came in on my Instagram, and someone asked, what have I started doing since being in quarantine? And I was like, well, obviously I started doing coffee in quarantine, but also I started wearing scrunchies. I bought my first scrunchie pack, which they feel way better in your hair. I also started playing guitar about a month ago, right when this whole thing just started happening. Like, I don't know if just internally I felt the call to it or whatever, because I was taking piano lessons and still am, that they all just kind of started making sense. But I did pick up guitar, which has been really fun. I've also started writing a lot more. I've really given myself permission and space to ground down into a writing habit and a writing practice, which I think is very important. I set my stove on fire yesterday. So that was fun. That's something I've never done before, and I did in quarantine. I'm preparing to build our garden in the backyard, which is really cool. We're going to do a nice big raised bed. We've already got our pepper seeds sprouted because we have a little indoor garden right now. But I want to build a nice big outside one. And so our peppers already sprouted. I just buried some garlic. I just planted some garlic. So that's happening. Hopefully we'll start to see those. Those won't be ready to harvest until the fall, though. I learned how to make pasta from scratch, which is surprisingly extremely easy. All you need is flour and water. And on one of the videos I think I did last week, I showed everyone how to make pasta from scratch. So that video will get updated here to the YouTube channel so you can watch that. But definitely encourage everyone to make pasta from scratch. I bought a bike, which has been a saving grace for me because I'm a yogi. I do yoga. I at least get 15 to 25 minutes of stretching in yoga in every day. But being inside every day, and I'm lucky enough to live in Arizona where we can still, we've got mountains and giant parks, and we're still able to go outside and enjoy nature from a safe distance, which is phenomenal. So I got a bike. I live right near Tempe Town Lake, and so I can ride my bike down there, which has been super, super wonderful for my mental health, for my physical body, for everything. So I'm super grateful for that. What else? I don't know. I think that's the majority of what I've done. Oh, I started resin art. Resin art's been cool. I made this cool little altar rose petal Palo Santo and sage ashtray. I forgot the word for it for a second. But okay, so I think that's like pretty much it. I think that is everything that I've started doing during this time. I'm sure there will be more things that I do during this time, but let's see. Let's draw another card from Empowering Questions. Let's see. Oh, this is such a good one. This is really interesting. Wow. Okay, so this is a cool card. And it's cool because this past week in my spiritual activism class, the theme was learning about family activism and metaphorical activism and archetypal activism and all these subtle ways that we are activists creating change in the world. And a lot of times when people think of activism, they think like big marches out in the street and like demanding change and all this kind of stuff. But I was really grateful to read these 2 chapters by I know her last name's Vargas. I can't recall off the top of my head. But she's a call for family activism. And what does that mean? And really, it's a call back home. It's a call back to re-nourish and reconnect with ourselves and our family, and to raise our families in such a way that we are successful, that we are powerful, and that family, and as she says it, familia, because she is Latino, that it extends past just our parents and our children, but it goes out to all of our aunts and uncles. It's like that extended family. It is so important in her culture, and how we have really lost that over time, how we've lost the sacredness of what it means to be a family. And when a family is strong, the community is strong. And so this card says, what advice on life would I give to myself if I was a mother and wished nothing but happiness for my child? So I'm not a mother yet. But I love this question because it's, when I think about becoming a mother, when I think about when I want to bring life into this world and how I want to raise them and how I want them to experience life, I know that there's many things from my past that, ways that I was raised that I would probably do differently. And I also recognize that there's things that I'm learning as an adult that my mother never knew and that I will be able to pass on to my children. So what advice on life would I give to myself if I was a mother and wished nothing but happiness for my child? So I would say lead by example. Absolutely. And lead by example in taking care of yourself. Lead by example in managing your finances, in being self-sustainable, in knowing how to get your needs met, in how to give and receive in relationship, how to forgive, how to love unconditionally. And I think that's like, what does it mean to love unconditionally? To take ourselves out of the roles, to take everyone out of the roles that we've put them in and see them as human beings and see them for what their experiences are, and for the fact that they are just alive. And if anything that is alive, if you are a creature on this planet, you are deserving of love regardless of action that you take. That's not to say that action doesn't have consequence, but it's, I will love you through that. I will love you through the action and the consequence that has to come because of the action. So I would definitely tell myself, and I am telling myself as I'm saying this, I am telling myself that it's important to remember that our children are here to teach us things, and that we may think we know what's best for our children, but we don't. And so to listen, and to listen with love, and to listen with curiosity, and to be open to receive the blessings of your child's wisdom, and to be open to receive all of that beautiful experience of raising a child with open arms, and know how to keep your child safe, but trust that they also know what's best for them, that they're carrying 7 generations of, or more of information within their little bodies, and they can show us a lot, and they can teach us a lot if we allow them. So giving myself permission, my future self permission to learn from my children, and giving myself permission to trust my children, and giving myself permission to love them unconditionally. And I think the unconditional, as soon as I say that, I can feel like but I do love my children unconditionally. And I think we always have to be willing to look at anything we say we're already doing. So if we say we're loving someone unconditionally, to really look at that, be it a child, a partner, a parent, whoever, to really look at, well, what conditions do I put on them? Oh, I only love you if you do this. I only love you if you show up in this way. And I know the parent, that has a lot to do with parents, because in our society, we're taught that parents are supposed to be a certain way and fulfill a certain role. And so when that doesn't happen, it's difficult for us to be able to love them the way we want to, because we feel like we didn't receive everything we were meant to receive from them. But at the same time, they're doing the best they can with their thoughts and their beliefs and what they know. And we're given this opportunity for our parents to say, hey, I see you and I hear you and I love you, even though maybe you couldn't do these things for me, even though maybe, you didn't show up the way that I wanted you to, I can still love you. Thank you for bringing me life. Thank you for doing what you did. Now, when I have children, I can give them what I felt I was missing. So that unconditional love, that unconditional space of love really requires us to take a step back and to, if only I had more time, if I had more money, I would do this if I was more courageous, I would do this if I was more confident, I would do this if I was a better writer, if I was a better worker, if I was a better whatever. Like we love to condition ourselves, because our conditions keep us safe, our conditions keep us small. They keep us in this little container of, this is what I know, and so I'm going to stay here because it's comfortable. And this is what I know, so I'm going to stay here because I'm not threatened in this space of comfortability. And anytime you're willing to look at your values or your belief system, and you're willing to look at them from an objective standpoint with the intention of really seeing if these things are serving you or if they're not, we're given the opportunity to better ourselves, to better our lives. And it doesn't mean that you're always going to change things, but it definitely means that if something's not working, that you're at least willing to look at it and see what you could do differently to have a better life and to maybe be a better person, depending on what you're looking at. And so what advice on life, I invite you to journal this for yourself. What advice on life would I give to myself if I was a mother and wished nothing but happiness for my child? I think that whether you're a mother now or you want to be a mother, whatever that looks like, I think that this is a really great question that you can ask yourself. And dads too. Absolutely. All right, let's go back to this other deck. So thanks for being here. Let me know you're here. Let me know if you guys have any questions or if you have any thoughts or ideas. I am definitely here to support you and to answer any questions that you guys might have. So this is kind of like a little glimpse into what I do for my clients. And I really like doing this segment, the Q&A, because it helps me to reflect on things that I don't always normally reflect on. So I'm grateful for it and grateful for all of you. So let's see what our next question is. What are the unexpressed emotions in a current relationship? Ooh, that's personal and deep. What are the unexpressed emotions in a current relationship? Well, I think that for all relationships, there's always going to be things that we don't necessarily express. And I think that there's a reason that, there's the safety reason we choose to. Hi, Andrew. Thanks for being here, bud. Excited to have you on. It's going to be so much fun. But okay, so what are the unexpressed emotions in your current relation or in a current relationship? And why is it important that we express them? So why don't we express all of the emotions we have? Well, I think this has to do with boundaries. I think it has to do with trust, and it has to do with who are we able to share our true emotions with, because not everyone deserves that part of us. Not everyone deserves to see us in our full vulnerability and in our full emotion, because not everyone can honor that. Not everyone can hold that space. And so I would say for me right now, the unexpressed emotion is probably courage. If is courage an emotion? I don't know if it technically is, but I would definitely say that I do have, within my personal relationship with my partner, there's definitely the past 2.5, 3 years have been this, 2.5 years have been this process of healing the matriarchal lineage, of releasing a lot of the trauma that was my mother's and my grandmother's and my great grandmother's, and releasing that from my body, because I was living my life a lot through, within relationships, a lot through the lens of my mom. And I think that's true for a lot of people, or through the lens of your dad. I know for me, it was my mom. Last year or 2 years ago, I could literally see myself behaving and doing things, and then I could see, I was like, this isn't me. Like, it was like I was living through my mom's eyes, and I was like, this is not mine. And so I had to go through this whole process of releasing. And so what's happening on the other side is there was a lot of codependency, there was a lot of neediness, there was a lot of just ways of being that were not true and authentic to who I was, but yet I was carrying all of these things from the past 7 generations of my matriarchal lineage. And for 2.5 years, I had to go through the process of drudging those things up from the bottom of my core, the bottom of my seabed, so that I could see life through them and recognize, like, this isn't me, this isn't what I want. I had to do, spell work to rid myself of certain energies. I had to do healing work. I had to do a lot to get me to the place where in my current relationship, I am much more confident and I am much more willing to show up. But there is still sometimes that like tightness in my throat or in my heart that it's like, well, if I do this, is he going to get mad? Is he going to leave? And then I just have to remember to power through and really allow myself to honor my truth and my authenticity. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of courage. But that's really it. Like, I'm going to say, like, me and my partner, we're in a very good space. We have a great relationship. And I'm pretty good at expressing myself. I'm sure he'll tell you that. And that's just who I am. I'm a very expressive person. So I don't really have any unexpressed emotions other just like in that moment when I feel that I need to be sharing something, like I really have to work up the courage to be able to do it. Which was very difficult for me for a long time. So I think it's important that we share our emotions in our relationship and to reflect and take a look at what are we not sharing, and we're not sharing it because I say because and not why, because why can lead us down, the two words because and why are very similar. But yet they hold different energy. Because holds an energy of responsibility. Why holds an energy of external blame or non-accountability, or excuses, for lack of a better word. And so when you're doing self-reflection and you're looking at any part of yourself and the reasons you're doing or not doing something, or being or not being something, a question you can ask yourself or a statement you can say and then complete is, for this one, I am the emotions I am not expressing in my relationship are, anger. I'm not expressing anger because, and then see what comes out of that, because you're going to find that there's a lot of valuable information down there and a lot of valuable information in that space for you to learn and grow from and to change your life. And the fact is, if you want to change your life, if you want to be happier, if you whatever it is, you want more money, you want to be happier, you want to be more joyful, you want to be more courageous, like, you have to look at yourself. You have to reflect on what's going on for you. There's no way around. There's nothing else that you can do, And some people are like, well, you could just choose to do it. And you're right. There are a handful of people, millions of people, handful of millions of people in an earth of 7 billion people who can just make a decision and then go off and do it. I'm not one of those people. And I know there are plenty of people like me who cannot just make a decision and say, okay, I'm going to do it. I seek to understand. I seek to feel and embody and really have an experience with everything that's going on in my life. And so even in my personal development and my change, if it was so easy for me, I would have picked up the guitar years ago. But here's what actually happened. Whenever I would pick up a guitar, I would get so much anxiety around, and thoughts would come in. You'll never be able to do this. You'll never know how to play guitar. You'll never be able to do music. Like, you're not musical. You don't have, what are you talking about? Like, those were the thoughts that were playing. And so I had to work through releasing the negative talk and the negative thoughts. And when I got into my self-development work and I started my coaching practice and all of these things started coming, it was recognizing, like, these aren't my thoughts. Where did these thoughts even come from? Who put these in my head? Like, and maybe it was society, maybe it was a person. It doesn't matter. It's not about blaming or figuring out who put it there particularly. It's just about recognizing, like, this is not mine. This is not true for me. What is true for me? What am I willing to do about that? And so that self-development work for me is so important in being able to take on new things. So, a couple of weeks ago when I picked up the guitar, for the first time at my friend Liz's house, it felt so good. And I was like, whoa, I haven't held a guitar in years, but it felt different. And then I got home the next day and I started playing, and I play every day for 2 to 3 hours now because it just feels good. And it makes me just happy and joyful. But if I didn't always, I've carried the thread of music with me since I was a very little girl. I've always known music was going to be a part of my life. So trust that those little ideas that stick with you from when you're a kid, like whatever they are, those carry through. They're with you for a reason. So don't ignore them. Don't put them down. Like, have the courage to try them again. But you might have to look at your thoughts first and say, what are my beliefs around this? What are my thoughts around this? What do I tell myself? What is the story that I'm telling myself around my ability or my capability to achieve something that I want to achieve? Because that's going to be so, so, so important. Because, if I didn't do the mental work of looking at my thoughts around music, around my capabilities to do it, I would have picked up that guitar. And more importantly, it wasn't even just music. It was around all creativity as a whole. If I didn't do the work to take a look at that and to see what was actually happening for me, chances are when I picked up that guitar, I would have had anxiety and I would have been feeling those same things that I've been feeling for most of my life. But because I've done the work, things are different. So if you're someone who's looking to change things, you have to do that internal reflection and that internal work. So you're going to be required to express your emotions in some way. And it's not easy. Like, this isn't comfortable. Growth is not comfortable. Evolution is not comfortable, because we have to be willing to go with the flow and leave things behind and change and let things happen in a new and different way, in an uncertain way. And that's just a part of it. That's not something I've ever been afraid of. I've never been afraid of the unknown or the uncertain. I've always been afraid of the certainty of me not being good enough. But yeah, so look at the emotions that you're not expressing in whatever relationships. Take a look at your most important relationships. What are you not expressing? I've got 2. Ooh. 3. Ooh, okay. We talked about balance yesterday, so we're not going to do that card. Meh. Actually, yeah, let's talk about this one. But less about me and more about the concept of it. So how would I want people to remember me when I'm no longer here? So I like this card because it forces you to think into the future. And there is a tool that I use with some of my clients called Legacy. And basically at the end of both of my coaching programs, I invite my clients to write out their legacy. To write it from the perspective of they're 100 years old. So they're looking back on their life. So I give them a meditation. I allow them to drop into a space where they've now lived this full and complete life. They're now elderly. They're now writing a book about their life. And it's all about looking back because it's a future thinking exercise. It gets you out of whatever you're stuck in now, but it's also a manifestation tool. Because manifesting is the process of making the unseen seen. And, in that's like the simplest definition. It's making the unseen seen. And the law of attraction and how that works. And so the law of attraction is your thoughts plus your emotions plus your beliefs plus your words. That is equal to the attraction, whatever it is you're seeking to attract. You add that plus action. So that opportunity, what you attract becomes that opportunity. And it's how you take action on that opportunity that is going to decide what your future holds. And so with that, when we're writing our legacies and we're writing out the things that we want to see happen for us in the future, we're basically getting it out of our body, out of our mind, out of our heart, putting it into paper, putting it into the universe, and we're saying, this is what I desire. This is what I seek in life. This is what would bring me the most joy. This is what I'm willing to do. And it allows us to step more fully into alignment, into our being. It gives us the capacity to really dream beyond our means. And one of the ways that we stay stuck in our current realities is we stop using our imagination and we stop dreaming, because there's so much out there telling us that we can't do it, or that this is the way it is and there's no other way to do it. And then, when we attach and believe that thought, we start comparing ourselves to the people who do have it. And maybe we get angry, or we get jealous, or we get, whatever we get, whatever emotion comes up for you. But even those emotions of jealousy or comparison, or not being good enough when we look at other people, affects the way we show up in our life. And so when you find yourself doing that, say you want to be like an influencer on Instagram, and you like watch these influencers and your thoughts are always like, oh, like I wish I could be like that person. Or, you're a musician and you look at other musicians and you're like, oh, I'll never be that good, or whatever, like whoever you're looking at, like stop following those people and find people who inspire you. It doesn't mean that they're bad or that you can never follow them again, but check your energy and check what's happening for you, because that all means something. Like when I was in my yoga teacher training, I was following all of these like super awesome yogis. But it was before I got into like traditional yoga and like the philosophy of yoga. This is when I was still like, I want to be able to do back bends and handstands. I really don't anymore. But what I had to do was when I started going through my teacher training, I found myself getting really upset that I had been practicing yoga for like 5.5 years and like I still couldn't do a split. And I had been practicing yoga for so long and I still couldn't do the arm balance that I wanted to do. And it really, really bothered me. And what I found when I checked my energy around it was that every time I looked at these people, I wasn't inspired by them. I wasn't happy about it. I was getting down on myself. I was feeling worse on myself, which is like the complete opposite reason to do yoga. So I unfollowed everyone. And gradually over time, those thoughts start to release. Those thoughts of comparison started to release. And I became stronger in myself. I became stronger in my person, in my will, in my integrity, in my knowing of who I was. When I went back and I followed these yogis, or I looked at them again, what I found was that most of them that I didn't see before were like dancers for most of their life, or had been gymnasts in their life. So they're doing all of these yoga poses after having done like 25 years of an activity that already had their body so open and aware. Now that's not something I could see before when I was just like idolizing them and feeling bad about myself. So when I found the strength in myself, I was able to look at them from a different perspective and recognize like, oh, like they're not necessarily these great yogis. I put them on that pedestal. They're just people who have been doing active things for a lot of their time, which makes their bodies able to do these things easier than mine. There's no shame in that. There's no guilt in that. But so we have to be willing to look at what are the things that we want, writing out our legacy, writing out the truth of what we want, being willing to say, I want to have 3 houses or 2 cars, or I want to live on a farm where I don't have to talk to people. That's my dream. I want to live on a farm where I have like 6 acres in either direction. That would be miraculous. I love peace and quiet. And I want to have a healing center on there, right? Like I want to have a house with a big garden, and I never would have said these things before, because there's also this stigma around wanting things for yourself in our country, that you're greedy, or you don't deserve these things. There's people starving. And it's like, yes, and we have the right to want what we want. We have the right to like what we like. It's just making sure that we don't use it against people. It's making sure that we still show up for one another. It's making sure that we still have each other's back and call out things that aren't right when things aren't right. But none of what we want and how we choose to show up in life should stop us from going after our dreams. We just have to make sure we don't walk on other people to get there. So when you're thinking about how do you want people to remember you when you're no longer here, Write out your legacy. How do you want people to feel about you, you know? But it's not even just how do you want people to remember you, because it's not just about like physical things, obviously. It's how you show up. It's, you know, how, do you want to be known as the kind, compassionate person, or are you going to be known as the person who, you know, doesn't necessarily show up for other people, or who is negative all the time, or who is greedy? Like, you have a choice in these types of things, and when you set the intention for who you want to be and how you want to show up, you're going to start receiving those opportunities for you to actually take action in those ways. Yeah, that feels good. So write your legacies. Write your legacies. Let's see what we got going on here. Oh, this is a great question. How do you demonstrate trust and faith? How do you demonstrate trust and faith? I love this question because trust and faith are the backbone of my entire being. And there is a difference between trust and faith, and I think that that's super important for us to like recognize and pay homage to and really lean into. Because trust has an accountability to it where faith does not. And what I mean by that and by trust is, so if I'm putting my trust on you, I have an expectation that you are going to show up in a certain way, or that you're going to do something, or that you're going to provide. I'm expecting something in return. So you're trusting me to be here every day at 11 o'clock. If I don't show up at 11 o'clock, you're going to lose trust in me because I didn't show up to my end of the bargain of that trust, right? And vice versa. You know, I trust that people are going to show up and watch this. If no one shows up and watches it, I'm just talking to myself. Hopefully that's not what happens. Hopefully this continues to grow and blossom. But so trust and faith, they're two different things slightly. Trust has an expectation. Trust has something else on the other side that keeps that trust alive. Faith is free falling into the unknown. And be that God, divinity, goddess, whoever, whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't have to be like a higher power, but faith is that you have a knowing that this is going to happen, and you don't have to do anything. It's just, you know, there is no expectation of whether or not it's going to happen. It's whatever happens is happening because it's meant to happen. Whatever's happening is happening because that is the reason. That is what needs to be happening in this moment. And so how do I demonstrate trust and faith? Well, I think we demonstrate trust in every moment. Every time we get into a car, we trust that someone's not gonna, barrel into us. I trust my partner, that he's faithful and that he is, gonna show up for me when I need him. I trust that he'll do that. In whatever that looks like. I trust my friends to hold my confidences. I trust my coaches and my therapists to hold my confidences. I trust my school to support me when I'm having a hard time with classes. I trust, we trust people. We trust that they're gonna return something for us. There's giving and receiving in trust. And we all know, like, if someone's not trusting, or you don't trust someone, then you tend to not engage with them. Or if you don't trust someone, you're probably not going to give them a whole bunch of your energy and time or information or whatever it is. Now, faith is really how I probably run my life more on faith than trust. Because trust is kind of like this, we've talked a lot about trust. Faith is the unseen, the unknown. It's a willingness to do what feels right for you, regardless of what, there's no expectation. I would do this even if no one was here, because I have faith that this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is what brings me joy. I have so much fun doing this every day at 11. So I have faith that the God has put me on this path for a reason. I can't see what it is, but I have faith. I have faith that what's happening in the world right now is a wake-up call for humanity and a wake-up call for a lot of people. Seeds are being planted right now. Seeds are being planted, and I have faith that in the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to see a big shift in the world. Something very different is going to happen in our world because of this. You know, and I have faith that people will heal and that people will come together in community. Faith. What else do I have? Faith in myself. I have faith that I'll show up. I have faith that I'm on the right path. There's no way for me to know. There's no way for me to know. I guess that's the difference between trust and faith. With faith, there's no way to really know. There's no solid return on the other side. You just kind of jump in and decide that you're going to do it regardless. Where trust is, there's a return. Again, there's the return in trust. You're expecting something in trust. And faith is just a willingness. It's a willingness to surrender. I like that. That feels good. Trust is an exchange. Faith is a willingness to surrender. So, yeah, I like that question a lot. That's a good one. So ask yourself, how do you demonstrate faith and trust? Let's see. Wow, it's already 11:48. Time flies when you're having a good time, guys. Time flies. All right, let's do 2 more questions, see what comes up. I'm really excited. We've got a great next couple of days. Tomorrow I'm going to have Cassandra on. She's an herbalist and a medicine maker. And she is going to be talking to us about how to boost our immune system. So that's going to be really awesome. And then Thursday we have Andrew Seifert. He's a musician and an artist. So he'll be coming on Thursday to share his art studio and talk to us a little bit about the work that he does. And then Friday, we have Olivia Peterson coming on. She is going to be, again, she's an artist and musician. She makes really cool jewelry. She's going to be showcasing some of that along with playing some sweet, sweet music for us. So it's going to be really great. So let's go ahead. Make sure you join. Please subscribe, hit notifications so that you make sure you're aware that, these things are still happening. Monday through Friday, I'm here from 11 to 12. If you have any questions that you want me to answer next Tuesday, please send them on in, and I would be happy to answer them. All right, let's see here. Oh, this is a good one, and it has 2 questions on it, so that works out really well. Okay. Am I living according to the expectations and dreams of others or my own? How do I distinguish them from each other? This is so good and so important. Okay, so am I living according to the expectations of my dreams or others or my own? So this is actually something pretty easy to figure out. Is what you are doing in your life bringing you joy, making you happy? Is it what you want to be doing? Or is it something that you're doing because that's all you've ever known, because that's what you feel is expected of you, to be the good wife, the good husband, to work the job, to get the paycheck, to put the kids in school, to have a savings account for college? Or would you be happier traveling the world with your family? This question really is just an opportunity to, again, reflect and look at yourself, and it really rounds us out today. Are you living in accordance with your dreams or someone else's? If you want to figure that out, you just have to sit down and ask yourself, am I happy? Am I happy? Does this thing that I'm doing make me happy? No, I am doing this because ... Finish that sentence. Figure out why you're doing the things that you're doing. Figure out why you're showing up in the world the way you're showing up. And this isn't to negate responsibilities. We all made agreements. We all have responsibilities. We all have to show up for them. 100%. Absolutely not negating that. And we also have to look at the different things. I'm working at a job that I hate and drains my energy, and it makes me miserable, and then I'm not as present with my wife, or I'm not as present with my kids, and it doesn't make me feel good. I'm doing this because, well, I have a mortgage to pay. I'm doing this because I want my kids to go to a good college. I'm doing this because it's all I've ever known. I'm doing this because that's just where I landed. And then analyze all of those reasons. Is this a good enough reason to be miserable? Probably not, right? Even the mortgage. Is this mortgage a reason for me to stay miserable at my job? No. Okay, so what can I do about it? What can I do? Oh, well, I have kids to support. Could you find another way to support your kids? What would that look like? We have to be willing to look at things differently, to show up differently, to live life according to your own dreams and according to what you really want in life. And then how do you distinguish them? How do you distinguish if you're living your life for someone else or if you're living your life for you? And I think that answer, what I just said kind of answers that same question. If you were living life for you, you would probably be doing everything that you love and be happier, right? Like, I know that I was living for other people when I still had the belief that the linear timeline of life was to, graduate high school, go to college, get a job, get married, have babies. There's a house in there somewhere. That's what I thought life was. That was my belief growing up. That's what somewhere that seed got planted, and that was how I lived my life for the first 25 years. I didn't know what the hell an entrepreneur was. Life coaching, spirituality, what? This stuff only entered my life 5 years ago. And when I made the decision to do something differently, because I was so burnt out at 25 from my career, I decided to do things differently. I decided to take a leap of faith, move across the country, do things differently, be different, and I now live my life for me. And you want to know how I know I live my life for me? Because I love my life. And this whole room that I'm sitting right now is an expression of who I am. This is my space that I've created. And it's because I was willing to distinguish what was mine versus what was other people's. I knew that I was living for other people or a different belief, someone else's expectations. I was in the hospitality industry. That's what I went to college for. It's what I have degrees in and whatnot. And it's what I did for 6 years after college. And I remember when I decided to leave hospitality, my dad's a chef. My dad was in hospitality. I always told myself I was following in his footsteps. And it took me 6 months to tell him that I quit the industry after I quit, because I was so afraid. I was so afraid to tell him. And that's another access point to how you know if you're living for yourself or someone else. If you are afraid to tell your truth, if you are afraid to speak your truth and tell someone what's actually going on, I don't want to live this life anymore. I don't want to be doing this. I want to do something else. Like, you're not living for you. And we think that we're going to let people down. And you know what? Maybe we will. Maybe we will. And yet that can't be a good enough reason for us to not go out and live our life. That can't be the reason that we decide to not show up and do things the way we want to be doing things anymore. Or the way we want to be doing things, I guess. So how do you just notice where your fears are? How do you distinguish what's yours or what's someone else's? Notice where your fears are. Notice what you're afraid to tell people. I know I was afraid to tell my parents I was leaving hospitality to become a yoga teacher. Mark Maron has this new comedy out on Netflix, a new stand-up. And one of the things he says is like, no one wants to be a bodybuilder. He's like, that's like, last straw for people. Like, you somehow end up there. You're not really sure how, but then you just roll with it. And it's like, it's an okay thing. He's like, and we can all do that. We know how to help the people who are trainers. And then he goes, but yoga teachers, we don't know what comes next for them. We don't know what happens to a yoga teacher after they lose it, after they have nothing left. And I just thought that was so funny, because I was like, oh my God, that was me 5 years ago. Like, I quit my amazing job, moved across the country. And I say amazing because the job was amazing, but it wasn't amazing for me. It wasn't amazing for the person, for my spirit, for who I am at my core, for my truth. It wasn't amazing for me to be able to express that. And it's just because it wasn't what I was meant to be doing, and that's totally fine. It gave me so much value. I learned so much from it, but it's okay to let things go. But so notice where you're afraid of things. Notice when you're afraid to tell someone your truth, because that's where you'll know if you're living for you or if you're living for someone else. And again, this isn't like, well, I want to go travel the world. So you drop everything and your kids and your family and your job and you go travel the world. Like, that's not responsible. You still have to be responsible. But there's definitely ways that, you could take a couple of months off and go do it, but you have to plan for it and you have to, figure out what it is. But we can all live the life that we want. We can all do the things that we want to do. We just have to be willing to show up and do the hard work of self-reflection. And there's plenty of people out there. There's coaches out there. There's therapists out there. There's group coaching programs. There's so many things out there to support you in being able to work through these things and make them happen for yourself. So if that is something that you're looking, start doing things that make you happy, that bring you joy, that bring you peace and calm inside. It's so good. It's a great feeling to have, but we have to work for it. We have to work for it because we have to undo everything that we've been working for that's taken us so far away from it. But once we're there, once we get to that place of peace and calm, then it's just continuing it. And that's uncomfortable at first. Like, so you reach ground zero of like, oh, I see that I'm releasing everything that I was and that I've done. Now you're in this neutral space of what is going on? What do I do here? And then you start filling that space in with things that you really love and enjoy. So it's a process. It's a transition. It's a transformation. It doesn't happen overnight. It definitely takes time, but it is worth it and doable for sure. So with that, that's where we're going to close today. Thank you all for being here with me and listening to me talk for so long. I love you all so very much. Like I said, tomorrow we have Cassandra, medicine maker and woman, coming on to talk to us about boosting our immune system. We have Andrew Seifert coming on Thursday to show us his art studio and play some sweet music for us. And we have Olivia Peterson coming on to show us some of her jewelry and to play some of her sweet music for us on Friday. So thank you all for being here. I love you all so very much. I'm so grateful to have this platform and to be able to speak. And please share, please subscribe. If you found this valuable, please, shoot me a message, send me a comment. Even if you didn't, you totally hate me, like, I can take that too. Let me know what you would like me to do better. Send me any questions you want me to answer for next Tuesday. All right, have a beautiful and blessed one. See you tomorrow at 11.